Commander John Miller stood at the viewport of the U.S. Defiant, his eyes fixed on the endless black canvas of space before him. Stars dotted the darkness like distant beacons, indifferent to the weight of responsibility that now pressed upon his shoulders. "Commander, all ships report ready for jump," said Lieutenant Susan Bennett, her voice cutting through his thoughts. Miller nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Begin countdown." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. This mission would change everything for humanity. Intelligence reports had confirmed what Earth's leaders had feared for months. An advanced alien empire called the Vorsarians was expanding through the galaxy, conquering every civilization in their path. Earth had sent Miller with 12 ships. 12 ships to face an empire that had conquered 50 star systems in less than a decade. "Sir, are we really doing this?" Bennett asked quietly, standing beside him at the viewport. "Showing our hand to a species that could wipe us out." Miller turned to face her. Bennett was a good officer, smart, careful, and not afraid to question orders when needed. "We're not going to surrender without at least trying to talk," he said. "And sometimes, the best way to start a conversation is to show you can defend yourself." "With all due respect, sir, 12 ships isn't much of a defense." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Sometimes appearances can be deceiving, Lieutenant." Across the bridge, communications specialist Greg Evans sat up straight in his chair. "Commander, I'm picking up transmissions. They're not directed at us, but..." He worked his console with quick, precise movements. "Sir, these are Vorsarian communications. They're talking about us." Miller and Bennett crossed the bridge in quick strides. "You're sure?" Miller asked. Evans nodded. "The translation algorithm is working. They're discussing human expansion patterns and military capabilities." "Sir, I think they've been watching us for years." Miller felt a chill run down his spine. The Vorsarians knew about Earth already. This wasn't first contact. This was a species that had been studying humanity, perhaps planning their conquest all along. "Can you tell where the transmissions are coming from?" he asked. Evans worked his console again. "Approximately 2 light hours ahead, sir. Right where we're headed." Miller returned to the command chair and opened a channel to all 12 ships in his fleet. "All vessels, this is Commander Miller. We have confirmation of Vorsarian presence ahead. They know we're coming, and they've known about us for some time. This changes nothing about our mission. We will proceed as planned, with caution and resolve." Miller out. He closed the channel and turned to his navigation officer. "Proceed with jump countdown." "Sir," Bennett said, keeping her voice low, "if they already know about us, they might see our approach as hostile. Or they might see it as an opportunity to test our capabilities." Miller replied. "Either way, we need to make contact and buy time." "Time for what exactly?" Bennett asked. Before Miller could answer, the ship's AI announced, "Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Space folded around them as the 12 human ships leaped across the void. When they emerged, a massive formation of alien vessels waited for them. Sleek, angular ships that gleamed like polished obsidian against the stars. There were at least 40 of them, and the smallest was twice the size of the Defiant. "Incoming transmission," Evans reported, his voice remarkably steady despite the sight before them. "They're hailing us, sir." Miller straightened his uniform. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a reptilian face with iridescent scales and vertical pupils that narrowed as they focused on Miller. "Human vessels," the alien said in perfect English. "This is High Commander Zex Tull of the Vorsarian Empire. Your presence has been expected. Prepare to receive boarding instructions and terms of your species' surrender." Miller met the alien's cold gaze without flinching. "This is Commander John Miller of the United Earth Defense Force. We haven't come to surrender, High Commander. We've come to talk." The shuttle carrying Commander Miller and his small team docked with a massive Vorsarian flagship. The human vessel looked like a toy next to the enormous alien warship. "Remember," Miller said to his team, We're here to buy time. Be respectful but firm. Security Officer Kate Rodriguez checked her diplomatic case one last time. Inside, hidden beneath formal documents, was specialized equipment and emergency gear. Yes, sir. Though I doubt they invited us over for tea. The airlock hissed open. 4 Vorsarian guards waited on the other side, each standing over 7 feet tall with scales that shifted color in the light. They carried weapons unlike anything the humans had seen before. Follow, one guard said simply. The humans were led through corridors that seemed impossibly large. The temperature aboard the alien ship was uncomfortably hot and humid. Miller noticed how the walls pulsed with faint light, almost like the ship itself was alive. After a long walk, they reached an enormous chamber. High Commander Zex Tull sat on an elevated platform, surrounded by other Vorsarians who watched the humans with cold, calculating eyes. Commander Miller, Zex Tull's voice filled the room. Welcome aboard the glory of conquest. I trust our environment is not too uncomfortable for your warm-blooded physiology. Miller stepped forward. We can manage, Commander. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Zex Tull made a sound that might have been laughter. There was no agreement. You are here because I allow it. Your species has been under observation for some time. You show potential, despite your primitive technology. While Miller maintained eye contact with the alien leader, Rodriguez carefully studied the room, noting the locations of guards, exits, and control panels. Her training helped her spot tiny details that might later save their lives. The Vorsarian Empire spans 53 star systems, Zex Tull continued. We have brought order and progress to dozens of lesser species. Humans will benefit from our rule. Miller kept his face neutral. We appreciate your interest in Earth, but humans prefer to determine their own future. Zex Tull's vertical pupils narrowed. That is not one of the options available to you. He gestured, and a holographic display appeared between them, showing images of Earth. Your home world. Beautiful, rich in resources, but vulnerable. Your military capabilities are. The alien paused, inadequate. Resistance would only result in unnecessary destruction. Miller studied the images, recognizing they had been taken recently. The aliens had indeed been watching Earth closely. Here are our terms, Zex Tull continued. Earth will become a protected territory of the Empire. You will provide resources and serve the Empire as needed. In exchange, you retain limited self-governance and receive our protection. This is generous, Commander. Most species are not offered such favorable terms. Rodriguez caught Miller's eye and subtly tapped her wrist twice, their signal that she had gathered useful intelligence during the conversation. High Commander, Miller replied carefully. These terms require careful consideration by our leaders. We would need to return to Earth to present your offer. That will not be necessary, Zex Tull said. You will transmit our terms to your government now from this ship. They will have 6 of your Earth hours to accept. Miller maintained his composure. Our communication protocols require secure channels only available on our vessel. Perhaps I could return to the Defiant to send the message properly. Zex Tull studied Miller for a long moment. Very well. But half your team remains here as our guests. And understand this, Commander. If you attempt anything beyond communication with your leaders, we will consider it an act of war. Of course, Miller nodded. I'll need Officer Rodriguez to assist me with the transmission codes. Zex Tull waved a dismissive hand. Take her. The others stay. As Miller and Rodriguez were escorted back to the shuttle, she whispered, Sir, their ship systems have a critical weakness. Everything I saw suggests they can't handle extreme cold. Miller gave her the slightest nod. Good work. Now, let's hope Plan B is ready. Admiral Paul Harrison stood in the command center deep beneath the Pentagon. The room was filled with military officers watching screens that showed Miller's confrontation with the Vorsarians. It's time, Harrison said. Miller has confirmed they're vulnerable to cold. Activate Operation Phantom Shield. A woman in a white uniform stepped forward. Sir, the Europa fleet has been on standby. Captain Lisa Washington reports all ships ready. Harrison nodded. Send the signal. Far away in our solar system, beneath the thick ice sheets of Europa, Jupiter's moon, something extraordinary was happening. The ice began to crack. Massive sections shifted and broke apart as 200 warships rose from their hidden underwater base. These ships were unlike the 12 vessels Miller had taken on his mission. They were larger, sleeker, and equipped with technology humanity had kept secret for years. On the bridge of the lead ship, the U.S. Valiant, Captain Lisa Washington watched as her fleet emerged from their icy hiding place. All ships report ready, Captain, her first officer said. Washington nodded. Begin jump sequence. Let's go save Miller and show these aliens what humans are really capable of. The hidden fleet, arranged in perfect formation, disappeared in flashes of light as they jumped toward the coordinates where Miller's small force faced the Vorsarian armée. Back on the Defiant, Miller and Rodriguez had returned from the alien flagship. Lieutenant Bennett waited for them on the bridge. Did you confirm it? Bennett asked. Rodriguez nodded eagerly. Yes, their ships have extensive heating systems throughout, and the Vorsarians themselves clearly prefer hot environments. They're reptilian. Cold would slow them down, maybe even paralyze them. Miller turned to communications specialist Evans. Any word from Earth? Evans smiled. Yes, sir. Admiral Harrison sends his regards and says, winter is coming. Miller allowed himself a small smile. Just as planned. Rodriguez, what else did you learn about their ships? Their hulls are incredibly strong, but their systems need constant heat. Their weapons are more advanced than ours, but if we could drop the temperature fast enough, we could shut them down, Miller finished. Bennett, how long until the Vorsarians expect our answer? 4 hours, sir. Miller nodded. And how long until our reinforcements arrive? Bennett checked her console. Washington's fleet should be here in 3 hours. Perfect. Evans, open a channel to the Vorsarian flagship. I think it's time we continue our negotiations. On the massive alien vessel, High Commander Zex Toll was growing impatient. When Miller's face appeared on the communication screen, the alien commander did not hide his irritation. Commander Miller, have your leaders seen reason yet? Miller maintained a neutral expression. They're considering your offer, High Commander, but they have some questions about the details of this arrangement. Zextol's scales darkened slightly. There is nothing to discuss. The terms are generous as stated. Perhaps, Miller said, but my leaders are particularly concerned about our defense capabilities. Would Earth maintain its own military under Vorsarian rule? The question was merely a distraction, designed to keep the aliens talking while Washington's fleet prepared for their surprise arrival. Meanwhile, on the Valiant, Captain Washington stood before a unique weapon developed in secret by Earth's best scientists. The Cryo Pulse Generator looked like a large crystal surrounded by complex machinery. Physicist Alan Cooper made final adjustments to the device. It's ready, Captain. When activated, this will create a wave of supercooled particles that can lower the temperature of everything within range to near absolute zero in seconds. Washington nodded. And our ships are protected. Yes. We've developed special shielding based on the same technology that let us hide under Europa's ice. Our systems will continue functioning even when everything around us freezes. Washington turned to her bridge crew. 2 hours until we reach Miller's position. Prepare all ships for immediate combat upon arrival. The hidden fleet of 200 advanced human warships raced through space, carrying a weapon the Vorsarian Empire never saw coming. Commander Miller sat across from High Commander Zex Tull in what the Vorsarians called a negotiation chamber. The room was uncomfortably hot, and sweat ran down Miller's back as he carefully chose his words. Your Empire's technological achievements are impressive, Miller said, gesturing to the holographic display showing Vorsarian colonies. Earth could benefit from such advancements. Zextol's scaled lips curved into what might have been a smile. Indeed, many species resist at first, but all eventually see the benefits of imperial rule. Miller nodded thoughtfully. I'm curious about your environmental systems. Our planets have very different climates. While Miller kept the alien commander talking, Lieutenant Bennett maintained command of the human diplomatic fleet. On the bridge of the Defiant, she received an encrypted message. Fleet approaching. The message read, 1 hour, maintain position. Prepare for protocol winter. Bennett sent a single-word reply. Ready. Meanwhile, communications specialist Greg Evans worked quietly at his station on the Defiant. Through his earpiece came the voice of Olivia Martinez, Earth's best cyber warfare expert. She was billions of miles away but connected through a secure quantum channel. I'm seeing patterns in their communications network, Martinez said. Their encryption is complex, but has a rhythmic structure. I think I can slip our code through during the reset intervals. Evans typed rapidly. If we can temporarily disable their targeting systems. Exactly, Martinez replied. They won't be able to lock weapons when our fleet arrives. I'm sending you the virus now. Back in the negotiation chamber, Miller carefully steered the conversation toward Vorsarian military tactics. Your ships are impressive, he said, much larger than ours. Zexful made a dismissive gesture. Size is only one advantage. Our targeting systems can lock onto an object as small as a human transport vessel from half a light year away. Miller looked suitably impressed. And your weapons? Capable of reducing your entire fleet to atoms in seconds, Zextol said, which is why surrender is your only logical choice. Miller nodded slowly. Perhaps you're right, but my superiors insist on discussing the details of resource allocation under Vorsarian rule. Zextol's patience was clearly wearing thin. Your delaying tactics are transparent, Commander. You have 1 more hour before we consider negotiations failed. While Miller kept the aliens distracted, Security Officer Kate Rodriguez had been permitted to tour parts of the flagship as a cultural exchange. Her Vorsarian guide believed she was seeing only what they wanted her to see. The guide had no idea that Rodriguez's trained eye caught crucial details with every step. She noted the extensive heating ducts running along every corridor. She observed how the Vorsarians moved more slowly when passing through airlocks where temperatures briefly dropped. Most importantly, she located the ship's environmental control center. Your thermal regulation systems are extensive, she commented casually. Her guide nodded. Essential for our biology and technology. Vorsarian systems require precise temperature control to function optimally. Rodriguez stored this confirmation in her memory. The intel about their cold vulnerability was correct. On the U.S. Valiant, now just 30 minutes from arrival, Captain Washington briefed her fleet commanders. Upon emergence from light speed, we will surround the Vorsarian battle group in Formation Delta. The cryopulse generators will activate simultaneously on my mark. Alan Cooper added, the temperature drop will be rapid and severe. Their ship's systems should fail within seconds. Washington looked at the assembled officers on her screen. Remember, our goal is to force surrender, not destruction. We show strength, then offer mercy. That's the human way. As Miller continued his careful dance of words with the increasingly irritated Zextul, Evans successfully uploaded Martinez's virus to the Vorsarian communications network. Now they just needed to wait for Washington's fleet to arrive. The trap was set. The Empire had no idea what was coming. A tense silence filled the negotiation chamber. High Commander Zextul's patience had run out. Enough delays, the alien leader hissed. Your time is up, Commander Miller. Will Earth surrender, or will we make an example of your species? Miller checked his watch casually. High Commander, there's something you should know about humans. And what is that? Zextul asked, irritation clear in his voice. We never show all our cards at once. At that exact moment, alarms blared throughout the Vorsarian flagship. A junior officer burst into the chamber. High Commander, multiple ships have just appeared. Hundreds of them. Zextul's scales darkened with rage. Impossible. Scan again. Miller smiled. That won't be necessary. Captain Washington has arrived with Earth's main fleet. The room erupted in chaos as Zex Tull ordered Miller and his team detained. Take them to the holding cells. Prepare all weapons. As Vorsarian guards moved to seize Miller, he touched a hidden button on his uniform. This was the signal Lieutenant Bennett had been waiting for. Aboard the Defiant, Bennett nodded to Evans. Initiate Protocol Winter. Evans sent the coded message to Washington's fleet. Outside in the vacuum of space, 200 human warships had appeared in perfect formation, completely surrounding the 40 Vorsarian vessels. The sudden arrival shocked the Imperial forces, who had believed they faced only 12 small ships. On the bridge of the U.S. Valiant, Captain Washington received Bennett's signal. All ships, activate cryopulse generators now, she ordered. Physicist Alan Cooper monitored the equipment readings. Generators at full power, Captain. Releasing pulse in 3, 2, 1. A wave of brilliant blue-white energy burst from the human ships, expanding rapidly to engulf the Vorsarian fleet. The space between ships suddenly filled with supercooled particles, dropping the temperature to near absolute zero. At the same moment, Greg Evans activated the virus Olivia Martinez had created. It raced through the Vorsarian communication network, disabling their targeting systems and preventing distress calls to the rest of their empire. Aboard the Imperial flagship, chaos reigned. The temperature plummeted as environmental systems failed. The reptilian Vorsarians, evolved for hot climates, began to slow and stumble as the cold penetrated their ships. What is happening? Zex Tull demanded, his movements becoming sluggish. Emergency power to heating systems. An officer struggled to respond, his scaled fingers moving clumsily over controls. Systems not responding. Temperature falling. Too cold. Miller and his team had prepared for this moment. They pulled cold weather gear from hidden compartments in their diplomatic cases and quickly put them on. Now, Miller said to Kate Rodriguez, "Let's get back to our shuttle." The Vorsarian guards who had been escorting them to detention cells were now barely moving, their biological functions slowing in the extreme cold. Miller and his team easily pushed past them. Throughout the massive flagship, lights flickered and systems shut down as the cold penetrated every part of the vessel. The proud Vorsarians, who had conquered dozens of species, found themselves helpless against this unexpected attack that targeted their fundamental weakness. On the Valiant, Washington watched as the Vorsarian ships drifted powerless. Cryopulse successful, Cooper reported. Temperature around their fleet is holding at near absolute zero. Their systems are completely frozen. Washington nodded. Prepare boarding teams. Commander Ryan Peterson, you have tactical command of the boarding operation. Peterson's face appeared on the screen. Boarding teams ready, Captain. Our cold weather gear will allow us to move freely through their ships while they remain slowed by the temperature. Remember, Washington said, we want prisoners, not casualties. This is about forcing surrender, not annihilation. As the human boarding ships moved toward the disabled Vorsarian vessels, Miller and his team fought their way to the hangar bay. Around them, the mighty Vorsarian Empire, once seemingly invincible, was literally freezing to a halt. Commander Ryan Peterson led the first boarding team onto the Vorsarian flagship. Dressed in specialized cold weather gear, the human soldiers moved quickly through the freezing corridors, while the ship's crew could barely move. Remember, Peterson told his team through their helmet comms, secure the command center first, then engineering. The humans met almost no resistance. The mighty Vorsarian warriors, feared across the galaxy, were now moving in slow motion, their reptilian bodies nearly shut down by the extreme cold. It's almost too easy, one soldier commented as they secured another group of aliens. Stay alert, Peterson warned. Even slowed down, they're still dangerous. Meanwhile, Miller and his team had reached their shuttle in the hangar bay. But instead of leaving, Miller made a different decision. We're going back to the command center, he said. I want to speak with Zex Tull directly. Rodriguez looked surprised. Sir, We have a chance to escape now." Miller shook his head. "This isn't about escape anymore. This is about ending a war before it truly begins." They changed direction, moving through the ship toward the command center. Along the way, they encountered Peterson's boarding team. "Commander Miller," Peterson said with a nod. "Captain Washington thought you might need rescue." Miller smiled. "Looks like you're doing a fine job. Care to join us? We're paying High Commander Zextol a visit." The combined teams moved forward, securing more areas of the ship as they went. Throughout the Vorsarian fleet, the scene was the same. Human boarding teams moved efficiently through the disabled alien vessels, facing minimal resistance as they secured critical systems and detained the cold-stunned crew. On the U.S. Valiant, Captain Washington received regular updates. "All Vorsarian ships secured, Captain," her first officer reported. "No casualties on either side." Washington nodded with satisfaction. "And our virus?" "Working perfectly," came Olivia Martinez's voice over the comm. "Their entire communication network is down. No distress signals got out." "Excellent. Maintain the cryo field until all boarding operations are complete." Back on the flagship, Miller, Peterson, and their teams reached the command center. Inside, they found High Commander Zextul and his senior officers struggling to function in the freezing temperature. "What have you done?" Zextul asked, his words coming slowly as his metabolism slowed to preserve heat. Miller walked up to the alien leader. "We've exploited your weakness, just as you would have exploited ours. The difference is what happens next." Zextul's eyes narrowed. "You will kill me?" Miller shook his head. "No, that's not how humans do things." He turned to Peterson. "Have your team set up portable heaters? Just enough to let them think clearly, not enough to let them fight." Soon, with small areas of the command center warmed slightly, Zextul and his officers could speak normally, though they remained contained by the cold surrounding them. "You have defeated us with trickery," Zextul said bitterly. "We defeated you with strategy," Miller corrected. "You thought us weak because we showed you only what we wanted you to see, a mistake your empire won't make again." Miller activated a holographic display showing the complete defeat of the Vorsarian fleet. "Here are our terms. The Empire will stop its expansion immediately. Earth and all human colonies will be recognized as sovereign and off-limits. You will release any species that wish independence." Zextul hissed in anger. "You would destroy our empire." "No," Miller said firmly. "We would transform it from an empire of conquest to one of cooperation. Those are our terms." Despite the Vorsarian communication blackout, news of the fleet's defeat spread through Imperial channels as some emergency systems came back online. Across Vorsarian-controlled space, conquered species learned that the mighty Empire had been humbled by humans. On dozens of worlds, resistance movements suddenly grew bolder. The first uprisings began within hours of the fleet's defeat. The empire that had seemed unstoppable was beginning to crumble from within. 6 months after the freezing of the Vorsarian fleet, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at Neutral Station 1. The space station orbited a star exactly halfway between Earth and the Vorsarian homeworld. Admiral Paul Harrison led the human delegation. His face showed the strain of the past months, but also pride in what humanity had accomplished. Captain Lisa Washington stood beside him, her fleet positioned nearby as a reminder of human power. The doors on the opposite side of the Grand Chamber opened. High Commander Zextul entered, followed by several Vorsarian officials. The once mighty aliens moved with less confidence now. Their empire had lost nearly a third of its territory to independence movements in the months since their defeat. "This meeting of the Galactic Peace Council will now begin," announced the neutral mediator, a member of an ancient species that had remained independent of the Empire. Harrison stepped forward. 6 months ago, our species met in very different circumstances. Today, we gather as equals to sign a treaty that will change the course of galactic history. Zextul's scales shifted color slightly, but he maintained his composure. The Vorsarian Empire acknowledges the sovereignty of Earth and all human territories. We accept the new borders as outlined in the treaty. The formal signing proceeded without incident. After years of unchallenged expansion, the Vorsarian Empire had been forced to accept limits. 12 formerly conquered species had gained independence, forming a loose alliance with Earth as their protector. After the ceremony, Harrison approached Zextul in a private meeting room. "Your people have honored the terms admirably," Harrison said. Zextul nodded stiffly. "Vorsarians keep their word, Admiral. But do not mistake compliance for acceptance. Many in our empire still believe conquest is our right." "And what do you believe, High Commander?" Zextul was silent for a moment. "I believe in survival. You taught us a valuable lesson about underestimating others. It will not happen again." On the observation deck, Greg Evans stood with his new wife, Olivia Martinez. They watched the stars through the massive viewport. "Hard to believe it's only been 6 months," Evans said. "Everything's changed so quickly." Martinez squeezed his hand. "We did what seemed impossible. We stopped an empire without destroying it." "That was Miller's genius," Evans replied. "He knew that showing mercy after victory would change more minds than simple destruction." Elsewhere on the station, John Miller, now promoted to admiral, met with representatives from the newly freed worlds. These species, with diverse biologies and cultures, had united around a shared goal: preventing the return of imperial rule. "The Alliance Defense Force will need officers trained in human tactics," Miller explained. "Each of your worlds will send candidates to our new academy on Mars." A representative with blue skin and 4 arms spoke up. "Admiral Miller, many still wonder, why did humans not simply destroy the Vorsarian ships when you had the chance?" Miller smiled. "Because that's not who we are. Humans have fought many wars among ourselves. We've learned that how you win matters as much as winning itself. True victory isn't destruction. It's creating a better future." Captain Washington's fleet became the core of the new Alliance forces. The cryopulse technology was shared among member species as a deterrent against renewed Vorsarian ambitions. 1 year after the confrontation, Vorsarian children gathered in a classroom on their homeworld. Their teacher, more progressive than most, showed them images of the frozen fleet. "This day changed our history," the teacher explained. "For generations, we believed conquest was our destiny. The humans showed us another path." A young Vorsarian raised a hand. "But we lost, teacher. The empire is smaller now." "We did not lose," the teacher corrected. "We changed. And change, young ones, is the only constant in the universe." As the humans and their new allies built their peaceful alliance, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter on the new galactic order.